My grandfather and great-grandfather started Junction Auto in 1931.
If you want to pay more, that's your business. If you want to pay less, that's my business.
It's really wonderful to be here, and what a beautiful, beautiful Greek Revival church you have. This is a real gem, such a very old church with such beautiful architecture, so thank you for having me here today so that I got a chance to see it. I'm here today representing the Ohio Historical Society, and on behalf of the Society, we want to extend our congratulations to the First Congregational Church of Claridon and the family of Phyllis Blazer Kopke, who are the sponsors of this marker. Honoring the church here, this is the 14th Ohio Historical Marker in Geauga County. The marker was made possible through a partnership between the Kopke family and the Ohio Historical Society and the church. The community here submits a marker application, and the Ohio Historical Society works on checking the facts on the text and getting the marker made. They're made right here in Ohio, in Marietta, so we are very proud of that. And then you all put it in the ground here and dedicated it, and we're grateful to you for doing that. It adds to what we sort of see as a living textbook on the grounds of Ohio. There are over 1,350 markers in the state of Ohio. The program's been around since 1953, and so this is part of a long line of historical markers that communities have chosen to put in the ground to honor the places that are important to them and the stories that are important to them.
Good morning. For those of you that don't know, this is my granddaughter Katie, Mom and Dad's great-granddaughter, and since she's the only one, she was their favorite. I thank you, our family thanks you for allowing us to do this, to put a marker here at a place that meant so much to Mom and Dad. And we thank Teeter for working so hard to shepherd this whole process and make sure that it was done. And the Historical Society, we thank you, and we were surprised that you got everything done ahead of time. We just didn't think that was going to happen. History was always very important to our mother. And especially after we moved out here and we kids were older and could fend for ourselves and left home, she read stories and history so much about this area, and she loved every bit of it. Now our father started the process to do this, and after a few months he decided that he didn't like living without my mother, and God called him home so they could be together. But our father, too, always made sure at whatever church we were, we adopted the history of that church, and everyone became family for us, especially here. You people took us when my father was at a very low point in his ministry, and you built him up, and you allowed for him to be the pastor that we all know he could be and that he used to be. And we have loved you for that. When we were little kids, and Lois probably doesn't even remember because she was only 4, when we left Woodsfield, my father's first pastorate, that was the only home we had known, and we were crying as we pulled out of town, and it was pouring cats and dogs, and all of a sudden a double rainbow appeared in the sky. And my mother said to us, God is promising that we're going on to a better place. We're going to have a wonderful life. Well, it wasn't that place where we moved, and it wasn't the next place. But when we got here, my mother and father agreed that this was the end of our rainbow, that God had finally, in his time, brought us to the place where we could have the happiness and the fulfillment that we all wanted. But this marker tells of the history of building the church. But the important thing for my parents and for all of us was the people, was the ministry that went on within these walls and far beyond. If those of you who knew my dad, if you remember, when he came, he had never allowed a church of his to hold a dinner to make money. That was just one of the unforgivable sins in his ministry until he came here. And you folks had already spent the money for missions before it was made. And so he pitched in and scraped plates for how many years so that the ministry of this church could continue. I had asked Teeter to send me a list of missionaries, and when I read it, you know, that long list of 18 full-term and short-term missionaries who have gone on from this church out into the world to take God's word to every corner of the world that we know. That's what this church is about. And this building is a symbol of all of that. I don't know if you felt it this morning, but this morning the 12th chapter of Hebrews to me came alive. I was surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses who have been here before and who have run the race and who are cheering all of us on to do what God calls us to do in this community and beyond. 18 missionaries, 4 ministers, 11 ministers' wives, and all the teachers and the doctors and the people who help one another get through this life, who do what God asks them to do in whatever place they are. Those were the things that were most important to our parents and to us, and why we want this building, this symbol, to be recognized for what it is. One of my father's favorite poems, and he loved all of Dwight Ladd's poems, but one that he especially liked was The Whitewood Board. And I asked Kareem if she would come up and read her father's words for us this morning.
Thank you, Elaine. My father wrote this for the 140th anniversary of the building of our church, and he would be so honored to have his poem read today. Thank you. The Whitewood Board. Our fathers thought, in the years long past, that a house or church should be built to last, to laugh at weather, resist decay, and still stand firm at the judgment day. So they chose their wood with the utmost care at a time when forests stretched everywhere. And the writings left from that time record that they made great use of the whitewood board. For those trees grew tall, and their boughs spread wide as they towered over the countryside. It took them decades to reach their prime, but before the white man, they had the time. So the builders sawed and they hewed and planed till the proper shapes were at last attained, and the structure was sided, roofed, and floored with the help of God and the whitewood board. Their work remains, though the builders rest. What more do we have from our sires' bequest? Their faith and prayer, their joy and song, their sharp, drawn line between right and wrong, their trust in the book as their only guide, their courage to say, with a touch of pride, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Or do we have just the whitewood board?
The history of this church shows that we don't just have the whitewood board. It's a wonderful thing that we have it, but the work of the church, the work that God called us to do, is the important thing. Thank you for being our family, and thank you again for allowing us to honor our parents with this marker here.
Give us strength, help us go in this world wherever we roam. Ancient